Because of ICT, we have very interesting models available in this space where socially useful and productive work can be done by our students while learning, because open universities are beset with one biggest advantage, and that is the students don't have to attend college. Okay? The workplaces can be the colleges of open universities. And once you connect to the workplace, there is no dearth of the sustainability in the under the impact of ICT. So we are talking about a new economy rather than finding the sustainability in the older economy. The next point I will cover and I will conclude, and that is, if such a industry partner is not around, what do I do for my sustenance? And that is also new opportunities are coming because of ICT. And if we also force them, or if we trigger them further, we can create a new opportunity, new business in India, and that is that of freelancing. Digital freelancing is a huge workspace today available for millions. And if we train our students to how to build their resume, how to build their profile on a digital freelancing space, and initially they can fail in that. The failure is also a very important experience in life, and the workplace will reject them, and they will keep attempting, attaining certain skills, and then one day they start succeeding and their profile starts building. Over a period of 3 years, by the time they are graduating out, they have sustained income with one laptop and a 4G, 3G connection, whatever. The girl is in a village, she is married, she cannot go out of the home, and still she is making a decent income and has a self-esteem in the family. Her children are seeing that mother works on a computer, okay, and half day she looks after some dairy or some beauty parlor or whatever in that village. This is a new picture of our student we can create by exploiting ICT and the new opportunities which are coming up in the freelancing space, because by 2030, 50% of the jobs will be in the freelancing space, and digital media are really bringing that opportunity of liberation and empowerment to India's millions of youth. So the impact of ICT on economy of ODL can be looked from a totally different perspective. That is what the message I wanted to carry. Thanks for your patient listening. Thank you. Like to see his slides. Can I go down?
Yeah, sure. Wonderful as usual.
On the larger screen? The largest.
Ah, found it. Oops. Microsoft wants me to use only their software. So, that's okay. All right. So Vivek, thanks for that wonderful talk, and good morning all of you, or rather good afternoon now. Sorry for the technology goof up. I did not bring my material with me. I had mailed it, and this hall does not have internet, therefore somebody had to go and bring that. So I'm supposed to talk about the policy on MOOCs, but I have titled my talk as Building India Where Dreams Come True. And like Vivek, I'm convinced that we now have an opportunity for constructive disruption. I'm going to speak on 4 points: MOOCs and open education. I'll add to whatever Vivek has already stated. I'll specifically deal with enhancing the use of ICT and some practical suggestions. I will then suggest a policy framework, and I have tried to jot down some implementation guidelines which people might consider to move forward. I'll use 3 or 4 minutes after that to make some concluding remarks. So first of all, MOOCs and open education has enormous similarities which neither the MOOCs people have realized nor the open education people have realized. Second, MOOCs are only 4 years old. I say this deliberately to point out that people should not become judgmental on MOOCs. They have already started saying, oh, can MOOCs do this, can MOOCs do that? Of course. A conventional education system which has flourished for 300 years, we are trying to compare its outcome with MOOCs. Surely MOOCs has a long way to go. But what MOOCs has achieved in the last 4 years, the conventional education system has not achieved in 400 years. It is built on years of e-learning effort. So MOOCs is not something that has come out of nowhere. Tutorials, intelligent tutoring systems, etc., were there for quite some time. MOOCs promote self-learning, and MOOCs promote self-paced learning. MOOCs provide access to best courses, which was not possible earlier. The content was being offered by only individual groups, and I had access only to those individual group content. Now I can access anybody's content anywhere. MOOCs do provide interaction and assessment. Interaction is provided through discussion forums. Assessment is provided online. Curiously, open universities also provide access to course content. Open universities also provide interaction, limited through the study centers or such thing that you have. And open universities also provide assessment. Although traditionally the assessment is paper-based, like everything else is paper-based. Mind you, this is significantly different from the model of conventional universities with their affiliated colleges, which typically are centered around teaching learning process which is synchronous. Students attend lectures, and where it is presumed that the main part of learning happens due to that lecturing, which is a nonsense, which is known to everybody who has attempted to enhance learning only by lecture. In fact, recently in a Open edX conference, the Stanford professor said that the academic lecture can now be considered to be dead. It's no more relevant. But that is how our university system still uses, conventional use. Now, paper-based versus online has significant differences. First of all, it provides enhanced affordable access, a very fundamental difference in the costing model. I'm not talking about the pricing, but I'm talking about the costing model. And second and more important, the online facilitation of teaching learning process permits micro packaging, which was never attempted. This is something all of us need to worry about. A degree is always considered by the conventional education as a 3-year or a 4-year process. A subject is to be studied over a semester or a year. Consequently, all our exams are year-long or semester-long. All our teaching learning is year-long or semester-long. All our content are packaged to be necessarily a semester-long or a year-long. A lecture has to be 1 hour. For 30 years, I've been asking people why these time limits are set. Oh, no, 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 that is tradition. But what is the reason for that tradition? No answer. For the first time, online courses permit you micro-packaging. So let me define micro-packaging examples. Many top universities in the world are now experimenting with a different combination of credits to be combined to get a degree. Traditional degree structure, this course, this course, this course, core course, only these electives, is giving way to saying you can choose electives from anywhere. You can choose even core courses from anywhere. And it doesn't matter whether this university offers it or not. You can also choose to do certain things in 2 months only, not in 4 months. You can choose to study something for 7.5 months, your choice. This was not possible earlier. The best example perhaps in India is what Professor Uday Desai is trying as director of IIT Hyderabad, who has introduced fractal academics. So we have generally our conventional education as credits. So a 3-credit course or a 6 credit in IIT Bombay is a semester long course. We have also introduced 2 credit or 1.5 credit courses, but he has gone to the extent of introducing a half credit course, what you conventionally call a 7-lecture course. And it is a perfectly valid credit course. The credit that you get or the half credit can be accumulated towards degree. And therefore, students in IIT Hyderabad are encouraged to collect a whole lot of different half credit courses to formulate a much wider background of their learning, on top of which they can construct anything specific that they want. A facility which conventional university system even refuses to look at. Can we at the Open University look at earning of such microcredits which are meaningful and which can be combined towards still getting recognition of a degree? The next point that I would like to, so MOOCs, my dear friends, provide a phenomena which we should note 2 important things about. Number one, its activities are extremely similar to Open University activities. They are dissimilar to the conventional university activities. We, unfortunately, as Open Universities, have worked for decades under the shadow of the conventional university system. I use this word by choice and by design. What do I mean by that shadow? Universities give degrees, therefore we also believe we have to give degrees. University define course syllabus, therefore we also believe that we have to define a course syllabus rigidly. Universities conduct exams in a particular fashion, therefore we believe that we must also conduct exams in exactly the same fashion. We have aped the university structure. Why? Because university degrees for some reason are recognized. We would like our degrees also to be recognized. In spite of the fact that the real world often treats our degrees with a slightly lesser weightage than they treat the degrees of the standard university. It is not because the person who has studied in a standard university is a greater knowledgeable person than a person who has studied here, but this has become the traditional hallmark. And we still trying to struggle to match that. Now this matching business we should end forthwith, because it was never required and it should certainly not be required going forward. So given these 2 things, I firmly believe that open universities of this world have a greater chance of adopting and benefiting from MOOCs, not only for themselves, but for the large number of learners whom they service. The arrogance of the university system today resides on the fact that their degrees are recognized by the society and the industries who employ their students. In 10 years' time, when the industries realize that they do not need their prospective employees to have degrees, they need their prospective employees to have usable knowledge, and that such knowledge can be gained elsewhere, typically from MOOCs courses and through certain other engagements. Suppose Tata Consultancy Services says that I don't care whether you have an engineering degree or not. Show me a proof of having studied this material and having acquired that knowledge. And that proof could be in the form of MOOC certificate. and show me that you can actually use that knowledge that can be tested online today. For the first time, a company in Pune, Persistent System, is actually going to try this out in October. They conduct online tests for employing professional programmers. And they have to have degrees. But the degree holders are not permitted to join unless they clear 2 online tests. In October, they are going to say, we don't care whether you have degrees or not. Just demonstrate your programming knowledge and we'll accept it. Already Ramdurai did this experiment in TCS when he refused to follow the standard track of TCS to employ only engineering graduates as software engineers. And he said, I don't mind trying BSc students from science colleges. He employed 5,000 students from a science stream as programmers. And guess what? TCS benefited because they didn't have to pay them the same high salaries which they paid to the BTech students, and yet they got exactly as competent programmers as their engineers were. Because after all, programming is a skill which does not depend upon the degree that you. But for achieving all these grand absorption of MOOCs into our activities, we need to enhance the use of ICT, which sadly is not happening as a priority in open universities. Number 1, we must create and maintain open educational resource repositories. We do not have such repositories. We have huge amount of content, and we do not mind giving that content freely to people. We do that traditionally, except that our emphasis and our mindset that our content must be on paper and must be distributed only through post comes in our way. We are willing to spend enormous amount of money in doing that, but we are not willing to spend, by design, 10% of that money, and saying that we shall construct and maintain an OER repository where all our content will be made available, all our old papers will be made available, knowledge should be open, as is stated. We believe in that. The second point is to enhance interaction, provide effective email. I did not stop at email, I said email.in. Do you know that India is the only country other than the United States which does not use email IDs for majority of Indians, like majority of Americans, which end in their country code? You go to Japan, you go to UK, you go to Yugoslavia, you go to Iran, every professional uses an email ID which ends in .jp for Japan, .uk for United. Only Americans use gmail.com because they believe .com, etc. means .us. It, to my mind, exhibits both a lack of pride and a lack of realization. A lack of pride because my email ID should end in .in. And lack of realization that every time I use gmail.com, yahoo.com or whatever, the email traverses to servers which are not under sovereign Indian control. It is my country, fellow countrymen's data. It should be within the country. I think it is our responsibility. This happens solely because our institutions are unable to provide a reliable working .in email service. And that should be considered as a priority thing. 3, reduce paper-based activity. Payments. Integrate payment gateways. I do not know how many of your students pay fees online. Wonderful. So you see, you already enhanced that. Can I say the same thing about all open universities? I am worried about the word almost, sir.
I'm not really, I don't know what other universities are doing, but we at NSU we have shifted to online.
This is wonderful. This is absolutely wonderful. But it should extend to the registration process, to the grade declaration process. So any certification should be a watermark PDF file which people can download and use it. Well, you are already there. Do you know that majority of the Indian established universities do not provide these facilities? So you are already ahead of them. Wonderful. Promote use of learning management systems and content management systems. These are two components of a MOOC platform. A MOOC platform typically integrates that and provides, of course, for several additional things like capturing event logs of what happens in interaction and etc. So you may use Moodle, Sakai, Drupal, whatever you want. You can use your own MOOCs platform. Fortunately, there are open source MOOCs platforms such as one which we use. You don't need to pay any license fees. You don't need to. That's one of the reasons why IIT Bombay partnered with EDX, because at that time they had announced that they will open source their platform. The similar this thing was not coming from either Coursera or for Udacity, and they stuck to their thing. Today, there are nations which have built their platforms on the Open EDX. There are hundreds of people who have individually built platforms. There's nothing that prevents every open university from just taking that open source platform and putting it, as we have done. Permit online academics, submission of assignments, conducting quizzes, conducting exams. I was delighted to find out that you have a mechanism of using ICT in a peculiar way for paper-based examination. You scan all papers in YCMOU, and teachers are able to correct those papers online. Extremely good. But still you require thousands of teachers to correct those papers. Can you not have at least part of the assessment done through online exams, which are auto-graded? Reduce the amount of burden and enhance the ability of people to give their test from wherever they are without having to have paper and pencil and pen and a whole lot of logistics to control those examinations. In this context, I would just like to recite what my friend late Devang Mehta had said. For years we had said roti, kapda or makan. When we moved from being a developing country to a developed country, he said we have to talk about not just food, clothes and shelter, but roti, kapda, makan, bijli or bandwidth. And unless you have bijli and unless you have bandwidth, you cannot promote use of ICT. I had umpteen occasions when I moved around in villages and smaller places where people are struggling both to have bijli and to have bandwidth. But can we not ensure that A, we accomplish perfect bandwidth and bijli provisioning within our institutions and within the centers that are associated with us, making that as a primary requirement, because without which ICT cannot work? And can we not do something to encourage use of ICT amongst all our learner population which come to us? It will not happen overnight, but it has to happen if we need to digitally empower people. I will make some suggestions on the policy framework also, although it is, I claim no expertise or competence in this, but since I was asked to speak on that, I thought I will make some suggestions. Number one, adopt MOOCs-based papers. Choose a few to begin with and make them part of the degree. I would suggest that you are autonomous institutions. I would believe that universities have power to decide what they offer, how do they assess, and how do they give degrees. Okay. In IIT Bombay, when we do flipped classroom, essentially doing online work, I still remember 2 years ago when Supratik and I went to our dean saying that we are not going to conduct CS 101, which had 550 students in the conventional way. The entire course content, lectures, etc. will be online. Quizzes and exams will be conducted online. We will only conduct flipped classroom session for which we know they enhance the effectiveness of teaching learning process. We went to him saying that we shall be soon writing a letter to you to seek your permission, because as Dean Academics, he is the in charge of all. And what he told me is, no, you are instructor in charge. I don't think you require anybody's permission. In any case, if you feel, you might send me a letter informing me that that is how you are running the course. That, sir, is the academic freedom I have enjoyed for 45 years. We call it the autonomy of the teachers. Our current educational system, largely based on the conventional universities, have clobbered up the autonomy of a teacher by increasing the affiliation system of the colleges. Uday Desai told me in one of the review committees which was reviewing the AICT of activities, he says there are 4 great countries in this world which still follow the affiliated college system. One is India, second is Pakistan, third is Sri Lanka, and fourth is Bangladesh. England itself, which started this, has gone away and has made all institutions autonomous. Their recommendation to AICT is to stop this nonsense of affiliated colleges and only accept autonomous institutions. We do not have this nonsense of colleges which are affiliated to us. We control the entire educational process and we are autonomous. What prevents us from doing this? There was a discussion during the tea when I was told that the UGC and such regulatory bodies say, you shall not do this unless we will permit you. Okay. I only pointed out mildly that in all my life I have never sought permission from anyone. I have occasionally apologized if required. I think time has come for the universities led by their vice chancellors to say, we will not wait. I remember Professor Ram Takole led a committee of experts, I was fortunate enough to be part of it, suggesting adoption of MOOCs. For 1.5 years, UGC did not do it. UGC had appointed that committee. They did not do anything on the recommendations, a clear-cut recommendation. When my friend and another passionate educator, Professor Sahasrabudhe, took over as AICT chairman, he pushed for a committee which was formed under my chairmanship to recommend MOOCs to AICT. I worked, we consolidated, roughly on the same line, sir, that you had recommended. We recommended this for technical education. Adopt MOOCs, start with some course, minimum 6 credits, that is at up to 2 courses per semester you can go online. Wonderful, we were very happy. We are still awaiting a formal notification from AICT. Once you convert an issue into a comitology, several committees will work and God knows how long it will take. And I would suggest that if, you see, somebody has to break this jinx. And if open universities who can come forward saying, look, goddamn, whatever we have been doing for years is exactly same what MOOCs do. And therefore we'll adopt MOOCs, we'll not wait for the rest of the world to see. Indian Swayam work is now in a full stream. Most probably it should have some announcement soon. The HRM in the ministry is very clear that MOOCs should be encouraged. For some reason, our university system and regulators are not following. I think time has come for us to say, thank you very much. We'll continue doing this and see what happens. Adopt online assessments, train teachers, and establish proctoring. There is a misconception that multiple choice questions do not test people's learning. It all depends upon what kind of multiple choice questions you ask. I am tempted to quote one incident which happened about 20 years ago in a school exam. There is a multiple choice question on Newton's law of gravity, how Newton's discovered. The question was so funny, I didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. The question said, which fruit fell on Newton's head when he discovered? And the 4 choices were coconut, orange, apple, and jackfruit. I am so happy that coconut and jackfruit did not fall on them. Otherwise, you would have a dead Newton and no gravitational. But is this how you are testing law of gravitation? I'll tell you, sir, when we, for last 4 years, we have been practicing online quiz and so on. To set a good multiple choice quiz takes 4 times as much effort than to set a conventional paper. I also have the privilege of sitting in the board of a company which actually assesses large number of people for employment in banks. The organization is called Institute of Banking Personnel Selection, Indian Banking Personnel Selection. They assess about 1 crore people annually. They do all online exams. And Dr. Gavaskar many years ago had told me that people wrongly believe that multiple choice questions are good only for rejecting and not for selecting. That is not correct. It depends upon what pedagogy that you follow, how well you are trained to do that. Okay. And as an added attraction, the online multiple choice quizzes can be randomized, which you cannot do on a paper-based system. We ran a computer programming course where the randomized quizzes had some 25,000 variations. No 2 students would get the same quiz. Everybody has to work. It is possible to do so. But we need to train our teachers, sir, and we need to establish some kind of proctoring, because Indians still do not like to have to give credence to a degree or a certificate unless the exam is proctored, supervised. We know what happens to proctored exams in Bihar, but we are not trying to suggest that proctoring is bad. We are trying to suggest proctoring is useful primarily as an act of preventing the temptation of people falling into it. Can we not establish, after all, we do have proctoring even today, but we do not have proctoring for online exams. To the established university system, I have suggested, use your own colleges and labs for proctoring. To our centers, can we suggest that they could empower themselves with technology? He is here, he has been doing this for, I think, at least 3 or 4 states. And you are able to do that. Now, can we reduce that cost so that, because I believe if the volumes and frequency increases, the cost can be reduced. It is perfectly possible to have a combination of proctored and unproctored examination. We have given our honor course certificates on IIT Bombay X courses for completely unproctored examination. There is no evidence that people are copying. First of all, they can't copy because of our randomization. Of course, we teach subjects which permit easier randomization of quizzes. It may not always be possible. But this pedagogy has to evolve. So my third point and suggestion is empower your centers. Whatever study centers you have, let them not just become a place where people come and try to handle administrative work or try to handle only exams. Let them become a study center where some flipped classrooms are conducted, where they don't waste time in, they just spend time in explaining things, where students ask questions. But the teachers in such places need to be empowered. We have found in the conventional education system where we ran a composite blended MOOCs course for about 50 universities which agreed to factor the MOOCs grade into their regular university grades because they were autonomous institutions. We found that teachers were not ready on spending an entire hour in only answering questions. In fact, some teachers said, sir, बड़ी मुश्किल से लेक्चर तैयार करके दे देते हैं, अब आप कह रहे हैं लोग सवाल पूछेंगे घंटा भर तो मुश्किल हो जाएगी, because they are not used to it. So people need to be trained. Mass scale video interaction is now possible. We do it at 300 remote centers, 10,000 teachers at a time. We have been doing it for the last 4 years. A sister institution, Amrita University, has developed this AView, and after some insistence, they were insisting on protecting their IPR, but they have released that entire thing in open source. You can download, establish a AView server, you can connect to any number of centers. To the best of my knowledge, the Madhya Pradesh Technical University is one university which is using this AView to connect to a large number. And NITTR, I think, in Bhopal, the Teacher Training Institute, they also use it. And Amal Jyoti College in Kerala is using this to connect to some 25 colleges. So large-scale video interaction is now possible. Set up collaborations, set up study groups, offer courses jointly. We, after giving some courses on our own, we said, let us offer courses from some partner institutions. As a trial, we offered a course with ICRISAT. Last year, we offered a skilling course jointly with TESS, but since Dr. Samir Sahasrabudhe has come back, we offered it again ourselves here. We are open to offer courses like that. The National Skill Development Council is interested in setting up their own mechanism, but as an initial step arrangement, they said that I offered that you can offer maybe one course here. Your partner institution emblem name will be there. The course will be offered by you, run by you. Run it on this platform. Your people will get some knowledge, some advantage. We will be very, very glad to do that. Please note that when we decide that the content shall be free, all our sister institutions will be able to take those contents, translate them if necessary in the local language, and use that. Now that something has to be facilitated through use of ICT. Explore online skilling. Skilling needs hands-on work, no doubt about it. But the hands-on work amount can be drastically reduced. I spent 20 years in building a maintenance training simulator for Indian Air Force through Aeronautical Development Agency. You are already aware of the pilot flight simulators. Do they reduce the need for actual hands-on to zero? Certainly not. But instead of spending 100 hours on practical training using the costly equipment, you can spend about 150 hours online and only 15 hours on the equipment. That is, so you have to spend a slightly more time on online, but the amount of time that you have to spend actually in the industry, and this could be extremely important going forward. Research in MOOCs has to be undertaken. And let me tell you, since open universities are likely to benefit much more with MOOCs than anybody else, I think we should try and put on resources for research, both on plain and hybrid MOOCs. Hybrid MOOCs which combines the advantage of face-to-face interaction and the online and the pedagogy research in this. I'll take a few minutes to explain a course that we had done yesterday. I had kept some pamphlets here. I do not know some bundles. If I had requested that these be distributed to all participants. It has a statistics of how this course ran. This is online skilling course, and another brochure which says that this course is now available as a free open course for a self-paced learning. So no timetable. But let me explain what we did. This is a course on training people on 3D animation using an open source tool called Blender. So people can download the Blender, can do anything on their own. The course itself is free. We offered it as a plain MOOCs course in 2015. We had 1,393 learners, out of which 125 were certified. The success rate was about 8.9%, which roughly matches the success rate universally. 1 lakh people register for a MOOCs course, only 8,000, 10,000 people complete, which is okay. The only interaction available was discussion forum. Next year, when Dr. Samir Sahasrabudhe came back to IIT Bombay, we said we will offer a hybrid MOOC. I don't like to call it blended MOOC, because blend means mixture of the two, which is not known what is the total property, may be worse than either. A hybrid means actually a better thing than both individual components, like a hybrid alloy. So I would like to call this model as a hybrid model which combines the advantages of online education and face-to-face interaction. There were 5,033 learners, 1,007 were certified. The success rate was 20%. The point in this statistics is that not all 5,033 learners could access the face-to-face interaction or the additional interaction that we could give. So this MOOCs, like all other MOOCs that we had offered, by the way, in blended MOOCs with 50 other institutions, our experience was there were about 36,000 total people who registered, who were learners from all over India. Out of them, 11,500 were students from these participating colleges. Since 11,500 students had to take the MOOC exams because their final degrees depended on the mark, the success rate was 100% there. They had no choice. But from others, the rate was not as much. But I would like to suggest two very interesting observations which we could learn from this. Samir has written a paper jointly with someone, which I don't know what happens to that conference. But the spatial interaction that was available, it was through telephone, it was through AVU, okay? It was through personal email exchange. MOOCs do not permit email exchanges individually. They permit only discussion forum. And it was also through personal presence. At a few centers where such blended MOOCs was offered by people who said we will make our college facilities available for students to come in and interact, Dr. Samir Sahasrabudhe personally went to these 2 or 3 centers to conduct sessions, and he had interactions with them. Now, out of 789 learners who benefited from these different types of interaction, 367 could be certified. That means the success rate of a hybrid model was almost 46.6%. Okay. Whereas the other learners, no special interaction was available. There were 4,244 learners, 640 were certified. The success rate was 15.1% as opposed to 8.9% in the previous edition. How did the success rate go up? This is plain MOOCs. So we wondered, and Dr. Samir Sahasrabudhe analyzed that what was different pedagogically in the second edition on the plain MOOCs itself. And since that has some meaning to all of us, I thought I will just list those three things. Number one, additional emails were sent as reminders to the quiz deadline. You know, a quiz is open and it is available for 10 days for people to solve. Many people miss that. But whenever we sent an email saying the deadline is approaching in 2 days, we suddenly saw a spurt of the activities because we can monitor the activities online. Simple thing. So nothing extraordinary but simple thing. Second, appreciation of submissions on the discussion forum. People who submit assignments, just like in a class, we tell one student, he has done very nicely. I think everybody gets motivated. We can do that online. In the discussion forum, when Samir and his team of TAs started saying, these are good assignments, in the first version, we are just giving them marks. In the second edition of MOOCs part, we started saying, this assignment is very good. We suddenly saw increase in the discussion forum activities where people were observing that, and there was an overall improvement. The third enhancement which we did was 50% of the assignments were made open-ended rather than rigidly defined assignments. Please note, we are also guilty of following the standard practices of the conventional university system where our minds are regimented, that questions have to be asked like this, etc. So the first MOOC, she had given an image saying you have to do animation as per this. In the second edition, in that assignment, he gave only a textual description that you have to do something like that. And he says, I was amazed to find the creativity that was displayed by the learners. We always assume that the learners are lallus and therefore they have to be given education. But the learners are creative humans, and that creativity we normally do not give any opportunity for in our conventional assessment. Here it is possible, and it was noticed. Now we are still unable to say which of these or these alone contributed more. But the fact remains that as compared to 8.9% the previous edition, the success is 15.1%. And there are thousands of learners, so I believe statistically this is a significant observation. Work on pedagogy continues, and that is the reason why I suggest that joint R&D on pedagogy is an absolute must. Implementation guidelines are only my thoughts. I am actually repeating some of the points which I had made earlier on enhancing the use of ICT, but they are integral to implementing MOOCs as a policy. Change the stance from being reactive to proactive. Don't wait for UGC to announce a policy and follow it. You set your own policy and go ahead. Start by offering one course. Set up your own MOOCs. I'm sure Badri will have statements to make after going back. But I have always, see, as a teacher or as teachers, what is our main task? Main task is to tell truth to people and tell truth to power. And if we are doing it not for a personal gain, then I believe the power and the people respect that. But there is a need to take initiative. We have waited enough for directives to come from elsewhere. It is time now for us to give directives. And I am sure that people may crave, people may shout, but people will comply. Because I am tempted to take few more minutes. I still remember an extraordinary statement which Honorable Prime Minister had made on the first day when he went to Lok Sabha. He was addressing the people who were elected on the BJP ticket. So he was addressing only the BJP elected representatives. And he was addressing them. And he made one statement which I think applies to all of us. He said, "आप चलें या न चलें, देश चल पड़ा है." Whether you walk or you don't walk, the country has started walking. My request to you is, please realize that. It is true everywhere, it is true in education. The nation and the aspirations, I have seen. 15 years ago an incident happened where I met a tribal boy from Wada which changed my own